Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel All Purpose Tutorials. And today here we are to talk about tenses. And as you would know, tenses play a very important role in English, whether written or spoken. That is the reason why everyone should have an introduction to tenses. So let's start. As we talk about tenses, many of you might get confused because you are not so much familiar with the rules and the structures of all the tenses. That's why I have made this video to help you out. Now you'll see that there are three categories of tenses: past, present and the future tense. And these categories are having four subcategories, as you all can see in this hierarchical chart. Now when you will go through these tenses in the hierarchical chart carefully, you will find out that most of the names here are identical. So what happens when a children starts studying these tenses in the beginning, they often get confused. They get confused because of the identical names, and they also get confused because they have not practiced it enough. And without practice, you are not going to get a good command over these tenses. As you people have seen previously in the hierarchical chart that there are three categories of tenses, and each category is having four subcategories. So now coming to the first tense, that is past tense. This tense is used when we have to talk about the events that has taken place in the past. Now talking about the first subcategory of past tense, that is simple past tense. As it is clear from the name only that in simple past tense we talk about the things that took place in the past. As you all can see on your screens, the simple past tense, also called past simple, past indefinite or preterite, is a verb tense which is used to show that a completed action took place at a specific time in the past. The simple past is also frequently used to talk about past habits and generalizations. I have also given the word meanings here for your convenience if you don't know what these words mean. Now here are some examples by which you can understand simple past tense more clearly and precisely. So the first example is मैं टहलने हम टहलने जाते थे. As you can see in this sentence, and if you will pay attention to its structure also, then it will become more easier for you to understand how a sentence is written in the simple past tense. And I have also written the sentences in Hindi to make it more easier for you all to understand that what we are going to do here. The structure of simple past tense is subject plus second form of verb plus object, and only this structure should be followed when writing a sentence in this tense. Now all we have to do is arrange the sentences according to the structure. You can also see that how can we make negative and affirmative sentences. In negative sentence, all we have to do is write not just after the verb. And when making affirmative sentences, we just have to write the verb in the beginning of the sentence. Let me tell you that when did is used, second form of verb becomes first form of verb. Now talking about past continuous tense. So the past continuous tense is used to talk about an action started in the past continued up until another time in the past. Like for example, we were watching a movie yesterday. This sentence is a sentence of past continuous tense because you were watching a movie and that movie lasted till a certain amount of time. To make it more clear, you can go through the examples in Hindi as well as in English also. The reason behind writing sentences in Hindi also, so that you would be able to recognize a sentence is written in which tense, and it will become more easier for you to translate the sentence into English. You can also see the sentences written in negative and affirmative form both, so that you will know that how to convert a sentence in these forms if asked to you. Now, talking about past perfect tense. The past perfect tense refers to time earlier than now. It is used to make it clear that one event happened before another in the past. It does not matter which event is mentioned first. The tense makes it clear which one happened first. The event ended at last is written in the past indefinite tense or simple past tense. Here are some examples of past perfect tense by which you can get more clear to the past perfect tense. So the first example is मैंने अंग्रेजी पढ़ चुका था. In the first example, the event has ended already, as we saw previously in the definition of past perfect tense. You can also go through the negative and affirmative sentences to make it more clear, and you can recognize the past perfect tense by seeing the had being used in this sentence. If you see a had being used in this tense, then it is a sentence of past perfect tense. Now, talking about past perfect continuous tense. We use the past perfect continuous tense to show that something started in the past and continued up until another time in the past. For 5 minutes, for 2 weeks are both durations which can be used with present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous tense is used to express how long something had been going on before something important happened in the past. You will get more clear after going through the examples, and please also read the Hindi sentences that I have written for your convenience. So, the first sentence is मैं 3 घंटों तक विभिन्न विषय पर लिखता रहा. I had been writing articles on various topics for 3 hours. And the second example is वो सुबह से ही तरह तरह की किताबें पढ़ता रहा. He had been reading different kinds of book since morning. So you can see in these examples that the event started in the past and continued up until another time in the past. You can easily recognize the tense by the had been being used in this sentence. If you see had been being used in a sentence, then it is definitely a sentence of past perfect continuous tense. Now, coming to the second category of tense, present tense. And now talking about the first category of present tense, that is simple present tense. The simple present tense also called present simple or present indefinite, is a verb tense which is used to show repetition, habit, or generalization. Less commonly, the simple present tense can be used to talk about scheduled actions in the near future and in some cases actions happening now. The present simple tense is the most basic tense in English. The present simple tense is used to express habits, general truths, repeated actions, or unchanging situations. To give instructions or directions, the simple present tense is when you use a verb to tell about thing that happens continuously in present, like every day or every month. Now let us see the examples to make it more clear. So the first example is मैं बिली को जानता हूँ. I know Billy. And the second example is वो इसे समझता है. He understands it. And it is clear from these sentences that here they are talking about present, that I know Billy. मैं उसे जानता हूँ. So here they are talking about present tense and they are talking about a current situation. We can recognize this tense by its structure also, that is subject plus first form of verb plus object. And again I am telling you that sentences should be made according to the structures only. Now talking about present continuous tense. The present continuous tense, also called as present progressive tense, is a verb tense which is used to show that an ongoing action is happening now, either at the moment of speech or now in a larger sense. The present continuous tense can also be used to show that an action is going to take place in near future. The present continuous tense is a grammatical tense that can be used to describe when an action happened or may happen. You can use it to describe both events that are happening in the present right now while you are talking about something, or in the future, something that may or will happen later on. So now let us see the examples. So the first example is मैं कॉलेज फील्ड जा रहा हूँ. I am going to the college field. वो यहाँ कुछ टिप्स के लिए आ रहा है. He is coming here for some tips. In these sentences, the event is in continuation and will be continue for a limited time amount. And to recognize this tense, if you see is, am, are is being used, then it is a sentence of present continuous tense. And you do not have to mug up all the structures of the tenses. You just have to practice it enough to recognize all the tenses individually. Now here is something to refresh your mood, because it has been a long time since you are watching this video, and we'll continue after it.
What? This sound is long.
So now talking about present perfect tense. The present perfect tense is a verb tense which is used to show that an action has taken place once or many times before now. The present perfect tense is used to indicate a link between the present and the past. The time of the action is before now but not specified. The present perfect tense is used to describe something that happened in the past, but the exact time it happened is not important. It has a relationship with present. I have done my homework and I have finished homework in the past. It is not important at what exact time, only that it is done now. Now, let us see the examples to understand it more clearly. So, the first example is मैंने यह कविता बहुत बार पढ़ी है. And the second example is वो यहाँ पर 15 साल तक रहा. I have read this poem many times. He has lived in this apartment for 15 years. So, from these sentences, it is clear that the person has read the poem many times and the event has finished before time, and the person, he has lived in that apartment for 15 years and that action and that event has been finished. And to recognize this tense, if has or have is being used, then it is a sentence of present perfect tense. Now, talking about present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous tense, also known as present perfect progressive tense, shows that something started in the past and is continuing at the present time. The present perfect continuous tense is used to refer to an unspecified time between before now and now. The speaker is thinking about something that started but perhaps did not finish in that period of time. She is interested in the process as well as the result, and this process may still be going on or may have just finished. Now, let us see the examples to make it more clear. So, the first example is Alex 3 साल से पढ़ रहा है, and the second example is मैं सुबह 10 बजे से सो रहा हूँ. Alex has been reading for 3 years. I have been sleeping since 10 a.m. And we can see in the sentences that the work has been started in the past and is continuing at the present time. To recognize this tense, if has been or have been is being used, then it is a sentence of past perfect continuous tense. Now, talking about the future tense, it has 4 subcategories: simple future tense, future continuous tense, future perfect tense, future perfect continuous tense. So, now talking about the first subcategory, simple future tense. Simple future tense has 2 different forms in English, will and going to. Although the 2 forms can be used interchangeably, they often express 2 very different meanings. These meanings might seem too abstract at first, but with time and practice, the differences will become clear. Both will and going to refers to a specific time in the future. Will is used in the simple future tense where the decision is immediate, whereas the going to form is a separate form which is not used for the simple future tense. It is used to express what what we think might happen in the future, and we decide at the time of speaking that something has to be done in the future. You all will get more clear after you will see the examples. So the first example is हम दूसरे शहर में चले जाएंगे. We shall move to another city. वो कल न्यूयॉर्क आएगा. He'll come to New York tomorrow. So here in these examples you can see that shall is used, and shall is used with first person pronouns, that is I and we, to form the future tense, while will is used with second and third person noun, that is you, he, she, it, they. And in the sentences also they talk about the events that are going to happen and not happened at the moment only. Now, talking about future continuous tense. The future continuous tense, sometimes also referred to as the future progressive tense, is a verb tense that indicates that something will occur in the future and continue for an expected length of time. The future continuous tense is used to talk about the future events that will be in progress at a specific time. We often use this structure to make a contrast between a present event and a future event. When you use the future continuous tense with two actions in the same sentence, it expresses the idea that both actions will be happening at the same time. The actions are parallel. Let us see examples now to make it more clear. So the first example is मैं कल सुबह 6 बजे सो रहा होऊंगा. I shall be sleeping at around 6 a.m. tomorrow. वो कल इस समय खेल रहे होंगे. They will be playing at this time tomorrow. So in this sentence the event is happening in the near future, and in the second sentence also they are talking about the event that has not started yet but it is soon going to in the near future. And to recognize this tense, if you see shall be or will be being used in the sentence, then it is definitely a sentence of future continuous tense. Now, talking about future perfect tense. The future perfect tense indicates that an action will have been completed, finished, or perfected at some point in the future. This tense is formed with will plus have plus the past participle of the verb, which can be either regular or irregular in the form. The future perfect tense refers to a completed action in the future. When we use this tense, we are projecting ourselves forward into the future and looking back at an action that will be completed sometime later than now. It is most often used with a time expression. Now, let us see the examples to make it more clear. So the first example is अगले हफ्ते तक वो बहुत सारे पैसे कमा चुके होंगे. By next week they will have earned lots of money. वो अपने पिता के आने से पहले घर साफ कर चुकी होगी. She will have cleaned the house before her father comes. We can see here that the events started in the near future and get finished also, as we saw in the definition of future perfect tense. In the second sentence, also an event started in the future and it ended after a certain amount of time. So this is how we make sentences in future perfect tense. And to recognize this tense, if you see will have being used, then it is a sentence of future perfect tense. Now talking about future perfect continuous tense. The future perfect continuous tense, also sometimes called as future perfect progressive tense, is a verb tense that describes action that will continue up until a point in the future. The future perfect continuous tense consists of will plus have plus been plus the verb's present participle. We use the future perfect continuous tense to show that something will continue up until a particular event or time in the future. For 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, and since Friday are all durations which can be used with the future perfect continuous tense. Now let us see the examples to make it more clear. एंड द फर्स्ट एग्जाम्पल इज मैं अगले सप्ताह तक जापान की यात्रा करूंगा. आई विल हैव बीन ट्रेवलिंग टू जापान नेक्स्ट वीक. बॉब क्लास में आने से पहले पुस्तकालय में पढ़ रहा होगा. बॉब विल हैव बीन स्टडिंग इन द लाइब्रेरी बिफोर ही कम्स टू द क्लास. In these sentences, the person in the first sentences, the person he'll travel to the Japan for 1 week. That means the event has been started and will end up next week. That means after some time in future, in a limited amount of time. And to recognize this, if you see will have been is being used in the sentence, then it is a sentence of future perfect continuous tense. And at last, I want to tell you that the reason I made this video in English only is that if you sincerely want to learn English, then you have to quit Hindi for some time. You have to ban Hindi totally if you seriously want to get a good command over English, whether written or spoken. And as this is our first video, so if you are having any suggestions to make it more better, or if you find any mistakes in our video, so please do tell us in comments.